Tonight, we drift into the waters of one of cinema's most enduring tales, Jaws. This is not a story of fear or terror, but rather a gentle journey through the coastal town of Amity Island, where the ocean holds both beauty and mystery. Let your mind settle as we explore this timeless story of human courage facing the unknown depths of the sea. But before that, my name's Murphy, and I'd love to know where you're listening from and what time of day it is for you. If this brings you calm, don't forget to subscribe. There are so many more peaceful nights ahead. Our story begins on Amity Island, a peaceful stretch of sand and sea that sits like a jewel off the coast of New England. The island exists in that perfect balance between civilization and nature, where weathered beach houses stand alongside rolling dunes, and the salt air carries the mingled scents of seaweed and summer flowers. The beaches stretch for miles, their golden sand warm beneath the summer sun. During the day, families spread colorful blankets, and children build elaborate sand castles that the evening tide will claim. Amity Island thrives during the summer months, when tourists arrive from the mainland, bringing with them the energy and excitement that transforms this quiet community into a bustling seaside resort. The local businesses depend on these visitors entirely. Ice cream vendors push their carts along the boardwalk, their bells creating a cheerful melody that competes with the sound of the surf. Hotels and bed and breakfasts fill with guests who have come to escape the pressures of city life. As evening settles over the island, a group of young people gathers around a bonfire on the beach. The flames dance against the darkening sky, casting warm light on faces flushed with summer happiness. There's music playing softly, and the gentle sound of waves provides a natural backdrop to their conversations and laughter. Among this group is a young woman named Chrissy Watkins. She's visiting the island, drawn like so many others by the promise of carefree summer days. Chrissy is spirited and adventurous, the kind of person who sees the ocean as an invitation rather than a boundary. Her hair catches the firelight as she moves, and her eyes sparkle with the kind of joy that comes from being young and alive in a beautiful place. As the evening progresses, Chrissy decides to take a midnight swim. The decision is spontaneous, born from the intoxicating combination of warm air, gentle waves, and the freedom that comes with being far from the responsibilities of everyday life. She runs towards the water, her footsteps light on the sand, while a young man named Tom tries to follow, but finds himself too affected by the evening's festivities to keep up with her enthusiastic pace. The water welcomes Chrissy with its cool embrace. She swims out beyond the shallow areas where the waves break, finding herself in the deeper, calmer waters, where the ocean spreads endlessly towards the horizon. The moon creates a silver path across the water's surface, and for a moment, everything seems perfect and serene. But something changes in the water around her. What begins as a peaceful swim becomes something else entirely. Chrissy suddenly finds herself pulled and thrashed about by an unseen force beneath the surface. Her cries pierce the quiet night air, but Tom has collapsed on the beach, unable to help or even fully comprehend what he's witnessing through his hazy state. The disturbance in the water is violent but brief. When morning comes, there's no sign of Chrissy, except for pieces of the life ring she had been using, scattered along the shoreline like puzzle pieces that tell an incomplete story. The ocean has returned to its peaceful state, waves rolling in with the same gentle rhythm as always, giving no hint of the drama that unfolded in its depths just hours before. Martin Brody serves as Amity Island's police chief, a position that normally involves handling minor disputes, lost tourists, and the occasional traffic violation. He's a man who came to the island seeking a quieter life, leaving behind the stress and danger of big city police work. Brody is thoughtful and methodical, someone who believes in doing things properly and thoroughly, even when dealing with seemingly simple matters. When Chrissy's disappearance is reported, Brody responds with the careful attention he brings to all his duties. He walks the beach where she was last seen, examining the scattered remains of the life ring and speaking quietly with Tom, who can provide only fragments of what he remembers from that night. The young man's account is hazy and uncertain, but there's something about the incident that doesn't sit right with Brody. Brody has an outsider's perspective on island life. He didn't grow up here, doesn't have the locals' intimate knowledge of the ocean's moods and dangers, but he also doesn't have their assumption that the sea is essentially predictable and safe. His police training has taught him to look for patterns, to consider possibilities that others might dismiss. When he examines the evidence from Chrissy's disappearance, he sees something that troubles him. The medical examiner's initial report suggests that Chrissy was the victim of a shark attack. This conclusion is based on the nature of the wounds and the pattern of incident. For Brody, this raises immediate concerns about public safety. He knows that if a dangerous shark is in the waters around Amity Island, other swimmers could be at risk. His instinct is to take precautions, to warn people away from the water, until the threat can be properly assessed. But Brody also understands that he's still relatively new to the island, still proving himself to a community that has its own ways of handling problems. He knows that any action he takes will be scrutinized by people who have been dealing with ocean-related incidents for generations. This creates a tension between his professional judgment and his desire to fit into the island's established social structure. The island's mayor, Larry Vaughan, represents the business interests that depend on Amity's summer tourist that season. He's a man who has spent his entire life on the island, watching it transform from a quiet fishing community into a popular vacation destination. Vaughan understands better than anyone how fragile the island's economy is, how dependent they are on maintaining their reputation as a safe, family-friendly place to spend summer holidays. When Brody brings his concerns about the shark attack to the mayor, Vaughan's response is measured and cautious. He doesn't dismiss the possibility entirely, but he also doesn't want to create panic based on what might be an isolated incident. Vaughan points out that shark attacks are extremely rare, and that jumping to conclusions could cause unnecessary alarm among both residents and visitors. The mayor's position is supported by several other island officials and business owners who share his concerns about the economic impact of any safety warnings. They argue that Chrissy's death, while tragic, was most likely a unique occurrence. They point to the island's long history of safe swimming and the thousands of people who enjoy the waters every summer without incident. There's also a medical examiner who suggests alternative explanations for what happened to Chrissy. He mentions the possibility of a boating accident, or perhaps an encounter with a large fish other than a shark. These alternative theories provide the town officials with additional reasons to avoid taking drastic action that might harm the island's reputation. The discussion between Brody and the town officials takes place in meeting rooms and offices that overlook the very beaches where tourists are already beginning to gather for another day of summer fun. Through the windows, they can see families setting up umbrellas and children running towards the water with their colorful floats and beach balls. The contrast between these peaceful scenes and their discussion of potential danger creates a tension that hangs over all their conversations. As the days pass, the island continues its preparation for the 4th of July weekend, which represents the peak of the summer tourist season. This is the time when Amity Island transforms from a busy summer destination into an absolutely packed celebration of sun, sea, and American holiday tradition. Every hotel room is booked, every restaurant and ice cream stand expects record crowds, and the beaches will be filled with more people than at any other time of the year. The preparation for the holiday is visible everywhere. Red, white, and blue decorations appear on storefronts and lampposts. Vendors arrive to set up booths selling everything from patriotic t-shirts to sparklers for the evening fireworks display. The harbor fills with boats of all sizes, from small fishing vessels to large pleasure craft that have sailed in from other coastal communities to join the celebration. For the local business owners, this weekend represents the financial foundation that will carry them through the quieter months of fall and winter. Restaurant owners stock up on seafood and beverages. Hotel managers review their reservations and prepare for the controlled chaos of maximum occupancy. Beach equipment rental companies organize their inventory of umbrellas, chairs, and water toys. The island's residents also prepare for the holiday, but with a mixture of excitement and resignation. They know that their peaceful community will be transformed for a few days into something much more hectic and crowded. Parking will become impossible. Familiar restaurants will have long waiting lists, and the beaches where they normally enjoy quiet morning walks will be packed with strangers. Chief Brody watches these preparations with growing unease. The incident with Chrissy continues to trouble him, and the thought of thousands of people entering the water over the holiday weekend creates a knot of anxiety in his stomach. He finds himself studying the ocean more carefully, looking for signs of anything unusual. But the water remains calm and inviting, showing no evidence of the danger he fears might be lurking beneath its surface. The weather forecast for the 4th of July weekend is perfect. Sunny skies, warm temperatures, and gentle breezes that will make the beaches absolutely irresistible to visitors. Local newspapers run cheerful articles about the upcoming celebration, featuring photographs of previous year's festivities and interviews with excited tourists who have been planning their Amity Island holiday for months. The confirmation of the shark's presence comes in a way that no one can ignore or explain away. A young boy named Alex Kintner is playing in the shallow water near the beach on the busy summer day. He's riding a yellow inflatable raft, the kind that thousands of children use every summer in these same waters. Alex is close to shore, in an area where parents feel completely safe letting their children play. The attack happens in full view of the crowded beach. Alex is suddenly pulled underwater, his raft left empty and floating on the surface. The water around the raft turns red, and then there's nothing but the empty inflatable toy drifting toward shore. The incident is witnessed by dozens of people, including Alex's mother, who stands at the water's edge calling her son's name until she understands that he's not coming back. The beach erupts in panic. People run from the water, grabbing children and belongings as they retreat to what they perceive as the safety of dry sand. Lifeguards blow their whistles and wave everyone out of the ocean. Parents count their children, holding them close as they realize how quickly a perfect summer day has turned into something unimaginable. For Chief Brody, this second attack removes all doubt about what they're dealing with. The evidence is undeniable. There's a large, aggressive shark in the waters around Amity Island, and it poses a clear and immediate danger to anyone who enters the ocean. The pattern of the attacks suggests that this isn't a case of mistaken identity or an animal acting defensively. This is a predator that has claimed 2 lives and shows no signs of moving away from the area. The immediate response is swift and decisive. The beaches are closed and barriers are erected to keep people away from the water. Signs are posted warning of dangerous marine life, and the local radio station begins broadcasting regular safety announcements. The cheerful atmosphere of summer vacation is replaced by something more somber and cautious. But closing the beaches during the most important weekend of the tourist tour season creates enormous pressure on everyone involved. Hotel owners face the prospect of angry guests demanding refunds. Restaurant owners worry about empty dining rooms if people decide to leave the island rather than stay for a beachless holiday. The mayor finds himself caught between the clear need for public safety and the economic survival of his community. With the shark's presence confirmed and the beaches closed, the island's leaders gather to develop a plan for dealing with the crisis. The meeting takes place in the town hall, a building that has hosted countless community discussions over the years, though none quite like this one. The atmosphere is tense, with everyone understanding that the decisions made in this room will determine both the immediate safety of residents and visitors and the long-term economic survival of the island. Mayor Vaughan takes charge of the meeting, his usual political composure strained by the unprecedented nature of the situation. He acknowledges that the shark poses a real threat that must be addressed, but he also emphasizes the need to resolve the crisis quickly so that the beaches can be reopened and the holiday weekend can proceed as planned. His position reflects the difficult balance between public safety and economic necessity that defines many of the island's decisions. Chief Brody presents his assessment of the situation from a law enforcement perspective. He explains that based on the evidence from both attacks, they're dealing with a large, aggressive shark that has shown no inclination to move away from the island's waters. He recommends keeping the beaches closed until the animal can be located and eliminated. His priority is clearly public safety, regardless of the economic consequences. The plan that emerges from the meeting involves mobilizing the island's fishing fleet to hunt for the shark. Local fishermen, who know these waters better than anyone, will join the search effort. The idea is to use their knowledge of local currents, feeding areas, and fish behavior to locate the shark quickly and efficiently. Several boats will work together, using a combination of traditional fishing techniques and more aggressive hunting methods. The fishing community responds to the call with enthusiasm. Many of the island's fishermen have been working these waters for decades, and they take pride in their ability to find and catch anything that swims in the ocean around Amity Island. For them, this is both a matter of community service and professional pride. They see the shark as a challenge to their expertise and their territorial knowledge of the sea. Equipment is gathered, and plans are made for a coordinated search effort. The fishermen will use a variety of methods. Some will troll with heavy lines and large baits. Others will use nets and spotting techniques. The goal is to cover as much water as possible in the shortest amount of time, hopefully locating the shark before it can claim another victim. The island's fishing fleet responds to the call with remarkable speed and determination. Within hours of the decision to hunt the shark, boats of all sizes are heading out to sea, their crews armed with heavy tackle and grim determination. The harbor, usually filled with the leisurely activity of pleasure boating and casual fishing, becomes a staging area for what feels like a military operation. The fishermen who participate in this hunt are men who have spent their entire lives working the waters around Amity Island. They know every reef, every current, every underwater formation that might attract or hide a large predator. Their confidence is infectious, and their eagerness to protect their home waters is evident in the way they prepare their equipment and discuss their strategies. By late afternoon, one of the boats returns with what appears to be success. They've caught a large tiger shark, an impressive predator that seems to match the size and power that would be necessary to cause the kind of damage witnessed in the attacks. The shark is hauled onto the dock amid cheers and congratulations, its massive form drawing crowds of onlookers who have been anxiously waiting for news of the hunt's progress. The tiger shark is indeed enormous, with the kind of teeth and jaw structure that could certainly inflict the wounds seen in the previous attacks. Its capture provides immediate relief to the community, and there's a sense that the crisis has been resolved. The mayor and other officials examine the catch with satisfaction, seeing in this massive predator the source of their recent troubles. News of the shark's capture spreads quickly through the island. Local newspapers prepare special editions announcing the end of the threat. Radio stations broadcast updates every few minutes, and people begin making plans to return to the beaches. The mood on the island shifts from anxiety to celebration, with many residents and visitors feeling that they can finally relax and enjoy their summer holiday. Chief Brody, however, remains cautious about declaring victory. While he's relieved that such a dangerous predator has been removed from the waters, his police training makes him hesitant to assume that one capture solves the entire problem. He continues to study evidence from the attacks, comparing it with what he observes about the captured shark. The celebration around the tiger shark's capture is short-lived. As experts examine the animal more closely, doubts begin to emerge about whether this is actually the shark responsible for the attacks. The size and species seem appropriate, but there are inconsistencies in the evidence that suggest the real culprit might still be at large. Into this atmosphere of uncertain victory comes Matt Hooper, a young marine biologist who has been following the reports of shark attacks with professional interest. Hooper represents a new generation of scientists who study sharks not as mindless killers, but as complex predators with specific behaviors and patterns. His arrival on Amity Island brings both expertise and a different perspective on the crisis they're facing. Hooper is everything that the island's traditional fishermen are not. He's young, educated, and from a wealthy background that has allowed him to pursue his scientific interests without worrying about making a living from the sea. He arrives with expensive equipment, advanced knowledge of shark behavior, and theories that challenge the conventional wisdom about these predators. His first meeting with Chief Brody reveals a man who is deeply concerned about the accuracy of the recent conclusions. Hooper has studied the evidence from the attacks, and his analysis suggests that the tiger shark, while dangerous, is not the animal responsible for the deaths. He believes that the real culprit is still in the waters round the island, and that the community's sense of safety is premature and potentially dangerous. Hooper's examination of the captured tiger shark confirms his suspicions. The animal's stomach contents, tooth patterns, and behavior don't match what he would expect from the shark that killed Chrissy and Alex. He explains to Brody that different species of sharks have different hunting patterns, and that the attacks they've witnessed suggest a much larger and more aggressive predator than the tiger shark. The marine biologist's conclusions are troubling, but they're based on solid scientific evidence and years of study. He describes the likely characteristics of the shark they're actually dealing with. Probably a great white shark, of unusual size and aggression. This description paints a picture of a predator far more dangerous than anything the island's fishermen have encountered before. Hooper's presence creates tension within the community. His scientific approach conflicts with the practical experience of the local fishermen, who resent being told that their successful hunt was meaningless. The mayor and other officials are reluctant to accept conclusions that would require them to maintain the beach closures and continue the economic hardship that the crisis has created. But Chief Brody finds himself convinced by Hooper's analysis. The young scientist's careful examination of the evidence and his detailed knowledge of shark behavior provide answers to questions that have been troubling Brody since the attacks began. The police chief begins to see Hooper as an ally in his efforts to maintain public safety, even if it means challenging the community's desire to return to normal. Hooper proposes a nighttime expedition to search for the actual shark, using more sophisticated methods than the daytime fishing efforts that captured the tiger shark. He explains that great white sharks are often more active during certain times of day, and that their hunting patterns might be better understood through careful observation rather than aggressive pursuit. The night expedition represents a different approach to the problem. Instead of trying to catch or kill the shark immediately, Hooper wants to study it, to understand its behavior and determine the best strategy for dealing with it. This scientific approach requires patience and careful observation, qualities that don't come naturally to a community that wants quick solutions to their crisis. Chief Brody agrees to accompany Hooper on this nighttime search, despite his own discomfort with being on the water after dark. The police chief's decision reflects his growing conviction that they need to understand what they're dealing with before they can effectively protect the community. His participation also represents a partnership between law enforcement and scientific expertise. The two men set out in Hooper's boat, equipped with underwater lights, cameras, and monitoring equipment that can detect the presence of large marine animals. The ocean at night is a different world from the sunny, inviting waters that attract tourists during the day. The darkness transforms the familiar seascape into something mysterious and potentially threatening. As they patrol the waters where the attacks occurred, Hooper explains more about great white shark behavior. He describes how these predators hunt, what attracts them to certain areas, and what makes them particularly dangerous to humans. His scientific knowledge provides a framework for understanding the attacks that goes beyond simple fear or superstition. The nighttime search also gives Brody and Hooper a chance to develop their partnership. The police chief begins to appreciate the marine biologist's expertise, while Hooper gains respect for Brody's practical concerns about public safety. Their collaboration represents a merging of different kinds of knowledge and experience. During their patrol, they encounter evidence of the shark's presence: disturbed water, unusual fish behavior, and other signs that suggest a large predator is active in the area. While they don't see the shark directly, the evidence confirms Hooper's theory that the real culprit is still at large and still poses a threat to anyone who enters the water. The nighttime expedition yields concrete evidence that validates Hooper's concerns about the ongoing threat. Using underwater cameras and sonar equipment, they detect the presence of a massive shark moving through the waters around Amity Island. The size readings from their equipment suggest an animal significantly larger than the tiger shark that was captured earlier. Their most dramatic discovery comes when they investigate a local fisherman's boat that has been damaged in what appears to be an attack. The boat belongs to Ben Gardner, a local fisherman who has been missing since the previous day. The vessel is found partially submerged, with damage that suggests an encounter with something much larger and more powerful than any normal marine animal. When Hooper dives to examine the damaged boat more closely, he discovers evidence that confirms their worst fears. The damage patterns on the hull are consistent with an attack by a great white shark of enormous proportions. The teeth marks and bite patterns suggest an animal that is not only larger than typical great whites, but also more aggressive and territorial than sharks normally are. The examination of Gardner's boat also provides physical evidence in the form of a massive shark tooth embedded in the hull. When Hooper extracts this tooth, both men realize that they're dealing with a predator of unprecedented size and danger. The tooth is larger than any in Hooper's collection, suggesting a shark that exceeds the normal range of great white sizes. This discovery transforms their understanding of the crisis. They're not dealing with a typical shark attack situation, but with an individual predator that represents an extraordinary threat. The animal's size and behavior suggest that it has claimed multiple victims and shows no signs of moving away from the island's waters. The evidence from Gardner's boat also indicates that the shark is not limiting its attacks to swimmers. It's aggressive enough to attack boats, which suggests a level of territorial behavior that makes it dangerous to anyone who ventures onto the water. This realization expands the scope of the threat beyond beachgoers to include the island's entire marine-based economy. Armed with this new evidence, Brody and Hooper return to shore with a clearer understanding of what they're facing. The shark they're dealing with is not just large and dangerous, but represents a unique threat that will require extraordinary measures to address. The community's desire to return to normal is not just premature, but potentially catastrophic. The discovery of the shark's true nature brings a new player into the situation. Quint is a local shark fisherman who operates from a weathered dock on the less fashionable side of the island. He's a man who has spent his entire adult life hunting sharks, and his reputation for both skill and eccentricity is well known throughout the community. Quint's appearance and demeanor set him apart from both the local fishermen and the scientific experts who have been involved in the crisis. He's older, more weathered, and carries himself with the confidence of someone who has faced dangerous predators many times before. His boat, the Orca, is a functional vessel designed for serious fishing rather than pleasure cruising. When Quint learns about the evidence that Brody and Hooper have gathered, he offers his services as a professional shark hunter. His proposal is straightforward. He will track down and kill the shark for a substantial fee. Unlike the community fishing effort or Hooper's scientific approach, Quint's method is direct and businesslike. He sees the shark as a problem to be solved through experience and determination. Quint's background as a shark fisherman gives him credibility that neither the local fisherman nor the marine biologist can match. He has spent decades studying shark behavior through direct confrontation, learning their patterns and weaknesses through practical experience rather than academic study. His knowledge is intuitive and hard-earned, gained through years of dangerous encounters on the open ocean. The shark fisherman's assessment of the situation is more serious than anyone else's. Based on the evidence that Brody and Hooper have gathered, Quint believes that they're dealing with a great white shark of extraordinary size and aggression. He describes the animal in terms that emphasize its intelligence and territorial nature, suggesting that it won't simply move away from the island's waters on its own. Quint's offer to hunt the shark comes with conditions that reflect his understanding of the danger involved. He wants to use his own boat and equipment, work with a small crew that he trusts, and have complete control over the hunting strategy. His terms also include a substantial payment that reflects both the danger of the work and his confidence in his ability to succeed. The shark fisherman's proposal creates a new dynamic in the community's response to the crisis. His professional approach offers a middle ground between the local fisherman's enthusiasm and Hooper's scientific caution. Quint represents experience and expertise specifically focused on the kind of predator they're facing. The decision to hire Quint and mount a serious hunting expedition requires careful preparation. The Orca, Quint's fishing vessel, must be equipped for a confrontation with a shark of unprecedented size and aggression. Quint's approach to preparation is methodical and based on years of experience hunting dangerous sharks. He checks every piece of equipment on the Orca, from the heavy fishing lines to the harpoon guns that will be their primary weapons. His preparation also includes safety equipment and emergency procedures, reflecting his understanding that this hunt will be more dangerous than any routine fishing expedition. The boat itself is a reflection of Quint's personality and profession. The Orca is functional rather than beautiful, designed for serious work rather than pleasure cruising. Its deck is scarred by years of handling large fish, and its equipment is chosen for effectiveness rather than appearance. Every aspect of the vessel reflects Quint's practical approach to shark fishing. Hooper's involvement in the expedition adds a scientific dimension to the preparation. He brings underwater cameras, monitoring equipment, and specialized tools that will help them track and study the shark's behavior. His contribution represents a merging of traditional fishing techniques with modern marine biology, creating a more comprehensive approach to the hunt. Chief Brody's participation in the expedition reflects his commitment to public safety, even though his experience with boats and sharks is limited. His presence serves as a reminder that this is not just a fishing expedition, but a law enforcement operation designed to protect the community. His involvement also represents the community's official sanction of the hunt. The preparation phase also involves planning for different scenarios and contingencies. Quint's experience has taught him that shark hunting is unpredictable and that success often depends on being ready for unexpected developments. The crew discusses strategies for locating the shark, approaches for attacking it, and procedures for dealing with emergency situations. As the Orca is prepared for the hunt, word spreads through the community about the expedition. The island's residents and visitors watch the preparations with a mixture of hope and anxiety. Many see the hunt as their best chance to return to normal life, while others worry about the dangers faced by the 3 men who will be risking their lives on their behalf. The departure of the Orca marks the beginning of what everyone hopes will be the final chapter in the crisis. The 3 men, Quint, Hooper, and Brody, represent different aspects of the community's response to the shark threat. Their collaboration brings together practical experience, scientific knowledge, and law enforcement authority in a unified effort to eliminate the danger. The morning of their departure is calm and clear, with gentle swells and light winds that create ideal conditions for their hunt. The Orca moves steadily through the harbor and out into the open ocean, its diesel engine providing a steady rhythm that will become the soundtrack to their expedition. The island grows smaller behind them as they head towards the deeper waters, where the shark is most likely to be found. As they travel, the 3 men discuss their strategy and coordinate their different approaches to the hunt. Quint's practical experience guides their overall plan, while Hooper's scientific knowledge helps them understand the shark's likely behavior. Brody's law enforcement perspective keeps them focused on the ultimate goal of protecting the community. The ocean around Amity Island is beautiful in the early morning light, with the sun creating patterns of light and shadow on the water's surface. For a moment, it's easy to forget that these peaceful waters hide a dangerous predator. The contrast between the serene seascape and the serious nature of their mission creates a tension that will define their entire expedition. Their first objective is to reach the area where the shark has been most active, based on the locations of the previous attacks and the evidence they've gathered. This involves traveling several miles from shore into waters deep enough to support a large predator, but close enough to the island to explain the shark's continued presence in the area. As the orca reaches its destination, the three men begin the careful process of preparing for their encounter with the shark. Equipment is checked and rechecked, responsibilities are assigned, and everyone reviews the plan for what they hope will be a successful conclusion to their hunt. The mood on the boat is serious and focused, reflecting their understanding of the danger they're about to face. The expanse of ocean around them seems infinite, and the task of locating one shark in so much water appears almost impossible. But Quint's experience and Hooper's scientific knowledge provide them with strategies for narrowing their search. They know that the shark's behavior patterns will help them predict where it's most likely to be found. The orca drifts in the deep waters several miles from Amity Island, its engine quiet as the three men begin their systematic search for the great white shark. The morning sun climbs higher, creating a deceptive peacefulness on the ocean's surface that belies the danger they know lurks beneath. Quint positions the boat over an area where the underwater terrain creates conditions that often attract large predators. Their first approach involves using chum, a mixture of fish blood and pieces that will create a scent trail in the water. Hooper explains that great white sharks have an extraordinary sense of smell, capable of detecting tiny amounts of blood from miles away. The chum will hopefully draw the shark to their location, allowing them to confront it on their terms rather than waiting for a chance encounter. As they establish their chum line, trailing the bloody mixture behind the boat, the three men settle into the patient waiting that characterizes much of shark fishing. Quint monitors the sonar equipment while Hooper watches for any changes in the water around them. Brody, less experienced with marine hunting, observes and learns from his companions while keeping watch for any signs of the shark's approach. The first indication of the shark's presence comes from Quint's sonar readings. The equipment detects a large object moving beneath the boat, something massive enough to register clearly on the screen. The reading suggests an animal of extraordinary size, moving with the deliberate patterns that characterize a large predator investigating a potential food source. Hooper's excitement at this first contact is evident in his voice as he describes what the sonar readings tell them about the shark's size and behavior. His scientific training helps him interpret the data, but even he seems amazed by the readings they're getting. The shark appears to be larger than any great white he has studied or even heard about in the scientific literature. The water around the boat begins to show subtle changes that indicate the shark's presence. The normal patterns of smaller fish are disrupted, and there's a sense of something large moving through the water below them. These changes are subtle, visible only to experienced eyes, but they confirm that their chum line has successfully attracted the predator they're hunting. Quint's demeanor changes as he realizes they've made contact with the shark. His casual attitude is replaced by intense focus and preparation. He checks his equipment one final time and positions himself for the confrontation he knows is coming. His experience has taught him that once a great white shark commits to investigating a potential meal, the encounter will escalate quickly. Quint's hunting strategy involves using large barrels attached to harpoon lines as a way to track and exhaust the shark. This traditional method takes advantage of the shark's strength while preventing it from diving too deep or escaping completely. The barrels serve as both markers and anchors, creating a connection between the hunters and their prey that will persist even if the shark attempts to flee. The preparation of the barrel system requires careful attention to detail. Each barrel must be properly attached to a harpoon line of sufficient strength to hold a massive shark. The harpoons themselves must be sharp and properly balanced, capable of penetrating the shark's tough skin and remaining embedded despite the animal's struggles. Quint's experience shows in the methodical way he prepares each component of the system. Hooper assists in the preparation while continuing to monitor the shark's movements through his scientific equipment. His instruments show that the predator is circling the boat at a distance, apparently evaluating the situation before committing to an attack. This behavior confirms his theories about great white intelligence and suggests that they are dealing with an animal that's both powerful and cunning. The waiting phase of their hunt tests the patience and nerves of all three men. They know the shark is nearby, but they can't predict when or how it will reveal itself. The tension of this waiting is heightened by their knowledge of the animal's size and the damage it has already caused. Each man deals with the stress in his own way, but the atmosphere on the boat is charged with anticipation. Chief Brody finds the waiting particularly difficult, as his experience with dangerous situations has been on land rather than at sea. The ocean environment adds an element of unpredictability that makes him uncomfortable. He must rely on his companion's expertise while remaining ready to act when the confrontation begins. The shark's first direct contact with their equipment comes when it investigates the chum line more closely. The animal's massive form briefly disturbs the water's surface, giving the men their first clear indication of the predator's incredible size. Even Quint, with his years of experience, is visibly impressed by the shark's dimensions. The brief glimpse confirms that they are dealing with a great white of unprecedented proportions. This first sighting galvanizes the three men into action. Quint prepares his harpoon gun, while Hooper readies his camera equipment to document the encounter. Brody positions himself where he can assist either man while staying clear of the dangerous equipment. The hunt has truly begun. The presence of the massive shark transforms the atmosphere aboard the Orca from patient waiting to intense alertness. Every movement in the water around them could signal the shark's approach, and every sound takes on new significance. The three men work with the focused coordination of people who understand that their lives depend on their ability to function as a team. Quint takes the lead position, his harpoon gun ready, and his eyes scanning the water for the shark's next appearance. His decades of experience hunting these predators have taught him to read the subtle signs that precede an attack. The way the water moves, the behavior of smaller fish, and the almost imperceptible changes in the ocean's rhythm all provide information about the shark's location and intentions. Hooper continues to monitor his scientific equipment while preparing to document what he believes will be an encounter with the largest great white shark ever recorded. His excitement as a marine biologist is tempered by his growing understanding of the danger they face. The readings from his instruments suggest that the shark is not just large, but behaving in ways that are unusual even for great whites. The shark's next approach is more direct and aggressive. It surfaces near the boat, allowing all three men to see its massive head and the rows of teeth that line its enormous jaws. The sight is both magnificent and terrifying, confirming that they're dealing with a predator of almost mythical proportions. The shark's eyes, black and emotionless, seem to study the boat and its occupants with an intelligence that is deeply unsettling. Quint's first shot with the harpoon gun finds its mark, and the attached barrel is pulled into the water as the shark dives. The line goes taut with tremendous force, and the orca lurches as the shark's power is transmitted through the harpoon line. The barrel disappears beneath the surface, marking the shark's position as it attempts to escape from this new source of pain and confusion. But the shark's response to being harpooned is more violent than any of them expected. Instead of fleeing, it turns and attacks the boat directly, its massive jaws clamping down on the stern with crushing force. The sound of splintering wood and the groaning of the boat's structure under the shark's bite creates a moment of terror that none of them will forget. The attack on the boat demonstrates that they're not just hunting a large fish, but confronting a predator that views them as a threat to be eliminated. The shark's aggression goes beyond normal predatory behavior, suggesting an animal that has learned to associate humans with danger and responds accordingly. This realization changes the nature of their hunt from a fishing expedition to a battle for survival. After its initial attack on the boat, the shark circles at a distance, the barrel from Quint's harpoon marking its position as it moves through the water. The barrel bobs and weaves as the shark attempts to rid itself of the foreign object, but the harpoon is firmly embedded, creating a connection between predator and prey that will persist until one or the other is defeated. Quint's second harpoon shot is more difficult, as the shark has become wary of approaching the boat directly. The animal's behavior shows a learning capacity that impresses even Hooper, who has studied shark intelligence extensively. The shark maintains its distance while continuing to circle, looking for an opportunity to attack without exposing itself to another harpoon. The second barrel joins the first in marking the shark's position, but the additional weight and drag don't seem to slow the massive predator as much as Quint expected. The shark's size and strength allow it to carry both barrels while maintaining its aggressive posture. This resilience suggests that their traditional hunting methods may not be sufficient to subdue such an enormous animal. The shark's next attack comes from below, its massive form rising from the depths to strike the boat's hull with tremendous force. The impact throws all three men off balance and creates new damage to the orca's structure. The shark's ability to attack from unexpected angles demonstrates a tactical intelligence that makes it even more dangerous. Hooper's scientific equipment provides disturbing readings about the shark's behavior. The animal's movements are not random or instinctive, but follow patterns that suggest planning and strategy. The shark is using the ocean's three-dimensional environment to its advantage, approaching from angles that minimize its exposure to their weapons while maximizing the effectiveness of its attacks. The third harpoon shot is the most challenging, as the shark has learned to avoid the areas where it's most vulnerable. Quint must wait for the perfect moment when the shark's position and movement create an opportunity for a successful shot. The tension of this waiting is almost unbearable, as each moment of delay gives the shark more opportunities to damage the boat or attack its occupants. As night falls over the ocean, the three men find themselves in a temporary lull in their confrontation with the shark. The predator remains nearby, marked by the barrels that track its movements, but it has temporarily withdrawn from direct attacks on the boat. This respite gives them time to assess the damage to the orca and plan their next moves. Below deck, the atmosphere is tense but reflective. The day's encounters have shown all three men that they are facing something beyond their previous experience. The shark's size, aggression, and intelligence have exceeded even Quint's expectations, forcing them to reconsider their assumptions about what they're dealing with. Quint begins to share stories from his long career as a shark fisherman, tales that reveal the depth of his experience and the dangers he has faced over the years. His stories are not boastful, but rather serve to put their current situation into perspective. He describes other difficult hunts, other dangerous sharks, and the techniques that have kept him alive through decades of risky encounters. The conversation gradually turns more personal as the three men recognize that they may not all survive their encounter with the shark. Quint's stories become more reflective, touching on experiences that have shaped his understanding of the ocean and its predators. His tales reveal a man who has spent his life in confrontation with nature's most dangerous creatures. Hooper contributes his own perspective on sharks, sharing scientific knowledge that complements Quint's practical experience. His stories focus on the behavioral patterns and evolutionary adaptations that make great whites such effective predators. The combination of scientific understanding and practical experience creates a more complete picture of what they're facing. Chief Brody's contribution to the conversation is more personal, as he reflects on his decision to leave urban police work for what he thought would be the safer environment of island life. His stories reveal a man who has always been drawn to protecting others, even when that protection requires facing dangers he doesn't fully understand. The most powerful moment of their conversation comes when Quint shares his experience as a survivor of the USS Indianapolis, a World War II naval disaster that left hundreds of sailors in shark-infested waters. His account of that experience provides a harrowing perspective on sharks as predators and reveals the source of his deep knowledge of their behavior. The morning brings renewed attacks from the shark, which has spent the night circling the boat and testing different approaches. The animal's persistence is remarkable, showing none of the typical behavior of a shark that would normally move on to easier prey. This continued aggression suggests that the shark has committed to this confrontation and will not be deterred by the difficulties it has encountered. The shark's attacks become more systematic and destructive as it learns from each encounter. Its strikes on the boat are precisely targeted at structural weak points, suggesting an understanding of how to disable the vessel most effectively. The damage accumulates with each attack, threatening the orca's ability to remain seaworthy. Quint's assessment of the boat's condition is grim, but not hopeless. The orca has been built for serious fishing and can withstand considerable damage, but the shark's attacks are testing the limits of its structural integrity. The engine and steering systems remain functional, but the hull has sustained damage that will require constant monitoring and emergency repairs. The shark's most devastating attack comes when it manages to grab hold of the boat's stern and shake it with incredible force. The power of this attack is beyond anything the three men have experienced, and it creates structural damage that threatens to sink the orca. The sound of splintering wood and groaning metal provides a constant reminder of their vulnerability. Hooper's scientific equipment suffers damage during the attacks, limiting their ability to track the shark's movements and behavior. This loss of information makes their situation more dangerous, as they must rely on visual sightings and Quint's experience to predict the shark's next move. The equipment's failure also eliminates their ability to document the encounter for scientific purposes. The damage to the boat forces the three men to prioritize their survival over their original mission of hunting the shark. Their focus shifts from offensive tactics to defensive measures as they work to keep the orca afloat and functional. This change in priorities reflects their growing understanding that they may be overmatched by the predator they're facing. The shark's ability to inflict such damage on a sturdy fishing vessel demonstrates the enormous power and determination of the animal they're confronting. The orca's wounds serve as a visible reminder of the shark's capabilities and the danger faced by anyone who enters its territory. As the orca's condition deteriorates and their resources dwindle, the three men realize that they must devise a strategy for one final confrontation with the shark. Their previous tactics have been partially successful. They've managed to attach several barrels to the shark and inflict some damage, but they haven't been able to kill or subdue the massive predator. Quint's experience suggests that their best hope lies in forcing the shark into a position where they can deliver a killing blow. This requires luring the animal close enough to the boat to use their most powerful weapons, while avoiding the kind of direct attack that has already damaged the orca so severely. The plan is inherently risky, as it involves deliberately exposing themselves to the shark's most dangerous capabilities. Hooper proposes using his scientific knowledge of shark behavior to predict the animal's responses to their tactics. His understanding of great white hunting patterns and territorial behavior provides insights that could help them manipulate the shark's movements. The combination of scientific prediction and practical experience offers their best chance of success. The final plan involves using the remaining harpoons and all available equipment in a coordinated attack designed to overwhelm the shark's defenses. They will need to work together with perfect timing, as any mistake could result in the loss of the boat and their lives. The plan requires each man to take significant risks while depending on his companions to perform their roles flawlessly. Chief Brody's role in the final plan is crucial. Despite his limited experience with marine hunting, his police training has taught him to function under pressure and follow complex procedures in dangerous situations. His contribution will be essential to the success of their coordinated effort. The preparation for their final attempt involves checking and rechecking every piece of equipment, reviewing each person's responsibilities, and discussing contingency plans for various scenarios. The atmosphere is tense but determined, as all three men understand that this confrontation will likely determine whether they return to Amity Island alive. Their final plan also acknowledges the possibility that they might not survive the encounter. The shark's size, aggression, and intelligence have exceeded all their expectations, and they recognize that their chances of success are uncertain. The dawn of their final day aboard the orca brings with it a sense of inevitable conclusion. The shark has spent the night nearby, its presence marked by the barrels that continue to track its movements through the dark waters. The three men have used the hours before sunrise to complete their preparations, knowing that the coming encounter will determine the fate of everyone aboard the damaged vessel. The shark's behavior has evolved throughout their confrontation, becoming more calculated and aggressive with each passing hour. The animal no longer approaches the boat with the curiosity or opportunistic hunting instincts typical of great whites. Instead, its attacks have become focused and deliberate, suggesting a predator that has learned to view the orca and its occupants as specific threats that must be eliminated. Quint positions the boat for what he believes will be their final opportunity to kill the shark. The orca's damaged condition limits their maneuverability, but the veteran fisherman uses his knowledge of currents and wind patterns to create the most advantageous position possible. His decades of experience hunting dangerous predators have taught him to recognize the moments when success or failure hangs in the balance. The shark's approach is different this time, more direct and purposeful than its previous attacks. The massive predator rises from the depths with its enormous jaws agape, revealing rows of teeth that seem designed for exactly this kind of confrontation. The sight is both magnificent and terrifying, confirming that they're facing a creature that represents the ocean's most perfect predator. Hooper readies his equipment for what he hopes will be the definitive scientific documentation of the largest great white shark ever encountered. His camera equipment, damaged but still functional, captures images that will provide evidence of the extraordinary encounter. But his scientific interest is tempered by the very real danger that none of them may survive to share their documentation with the world. Chief Brody takes his position in the plan, his police training helping him maintain focus despite the unprecedented nature of the situation. His role requires him to act at precisely the right moment, supporting his companions while avoiding the shark's devastating attacks. The responsibility weighs heavily on him, knowing that the safety of his community depends on the success of their mission. The shark's final approach is marked by a speed and determination that surprises even Quint. The animal's massive form cuts through the water with terrifying efficiency, its movement creating a wake that rocks the damaged boat. The veteran shark fisherman's confrontation with the massive predator becomes a personal battle between two apex predators, one of the sea, one of human determination and experience. Quint's lifetime of hunting dangerous sharks has prepared him for this moment, but even his extensive experience cannot fully prepare him for the size and aggression of the great white they're facing. Quint's final harpoon shot is his most crucial, aimed at the shark's most vulnerable area as it approaches the boat. The weapon finds its mark, but the shark's response is more violent than anything he has previously encountered. The animal's thrashing threatens to destroy what remains of the orca's structural integrity, and the force of its movements tests the limits of the harpoon lines. The shark's retaliation against Quint is swift and devastating. The massive predator's jaws close around the stern of the boat where the fisherman is positioned, and the crushing power of its bite begins to destroy the vessel's hull. The sound of splintering wood and groaning metal creates a chorus of destruction that marks the beginning of the orca's final moments. Quint's experience and courage are evident in his response to the shark's attack. Even as the boat begins to sink beneath him, he continues to fight the predator with every weapon and technique at his disposal. His determination reflects a lifetime of confronting the ocean's most dangerous creatures, and his refusal to surrender provides inspiration for his companions. The shark's grip on the boat creates a direct connection between predator and prey that cannot be broken by conventional means. The animal's strength allows it to hold the sinking vessel while continuing its attack, trapping the three men in a situation that requires desperate measures. The confrontation has moved beyond hunting into a struggle for survival that will test every skill and resource they possess. Hooper's scientific equipment provides disturbing readings about the shark's behavior during this final phase of the confrontation. The animal's actions are not random or instinctive, but follow patterns that suggest intelligence and planning. The shark is using its understanding of the situation to maximize its advantage while minimizing its exposure to the human's weapons. The veteran fisherman's final moments aboard the orca demonstrate the courage and skill that have defined his career. Even as the situation becomes hopeless, Quint continues to fight the shark with the determination of someone who has spent his life facing impossible odds. His example provides his companions with the inspiration they need to continue their own struggle against the massive predator. With the orca sinking and Quint's fate sealed, Chief Brody finds himself in the position of making the final stand against the shark. His limited experience with marine hunting is offset by his training as a police officer and his determination to protect his community. The responsibility for defeating the predator falls to the man who has the most to lose if the shark returns to Amity Island. Brody's position on the sinking boat gives him access to the equipment that remains functional, including the compressed air tanks that Hooper has been using for his diving equipment. The police chief's quick thinking and ability to improvise under pressure serve him well as he devises a plan to use the available resources against the shark. The shark's continued aggression provides Brody with the opportunity he needs to implement his desperate plan. The massive predator's attacks on the sinking boat bring it close enough for him to take action, despite the enormous risk involved. His police training has taught him to function under pressure and make split-second decisions that can determine the outcome of life-and-death situations. The compressed air tanks become the key to Brody's final strategy against the shark. His understanding of how these tanks function under pressure, combined with his access to the boat's remaining weapons, creates an opportunity to deliver a devastating blow to the predator. The plan is dangerous and requires perfect timing, but it represents their last hope of defeating the massive shark. Brody's execution of his plan requires him to position himself directly in the shark's path, using himself as bait to draw the predator into the optimal position. This act of courage reflects his commitment to protecting his community and his willingness to sacrifice himself to ensure that the shark cannot return to threaten others. The moment of truth arrives when the shark approaches close enough for Brody to implement his strategy. The police chief's actions must be perfectly timed and executed, as any mistake will result in his death and the shark's continued threat to Amity Island. His police training and personal determination combine to give him the focus he needs to act decisively. The success of Brody's plan depends on his ability to remain calm and focused while facing the most terrifying predator in the ocean. His experience dealing with dangerous situations on land translates to this maritime confrontation, allowing him to function effectively despite the alien environment and unprecedented threat. Chief Brody's desperate plan succeeds in a spectacular fashion that brings the long confrontation to a sudden and decisive end. The compressed air tank, forced into the shark's mouth and detonated by a well-placed shot, creates an explosion that destroys the massive predator from within. The shark's death is instantaneous and complete, ending the threat that has terrorized Amity Island for days. The explosion that kills the shark is visible from a great distance, sending pieces of the massive predator raining down into the ocean around the sinking orca. The sight confirms that the animal responsible for the attacks is truly dead, eliminated by the courage and quick thinking of a police chief who never expected to face such a challenge when he moved to the quiet island community. The immediate aftermath of the shark's death brings a profound sense of relief to the survivors. The constant tension and fear that has defined their encounter with the predator is replaced by the sudden realization that they have succeeded in their mission. The threat to Amity Island has been eliminated, and the beaches can once again be safe for swimmers and boaters. But the victory comes at a tremendous cost. The orca is sinking rapidly, its hull too damaged to remain afloat. Quint, the veteran shark fisherman whose experience and courage brought them to this confrontation, has paid the ultimate price for their success. His sacrifice serves as a reminder of the dangers faced by those who venture into the ocean's most dangerous waters. The debris from the shark's destruction floats on the ocean's surface, providing physical evidence of the enormous predator that has been defeated. The size of the pieces confirms that they were indeed dealing with a great white shark of unprecedented proportions, an animal that represented a unique threat to human life and safety. Hooper's scientific equipment, damaged but still partially functional, records the final moments of the encounter. The data and images captured during their confrontation will provide valuable information for marine biologists studying great white shark behavior. The scientific value of their encounter helps to justify the risks they took and the sacrifices they made. The ocean around the sinking orca begins to return to its normal state, with the massive predator's death removing the disruption that has affected the local marine ecosystem. The smaller fish and marine animals that fled the area during the shark's presence begin to return, restoring the natural balance that the great white's aggression had disturbed. The destruction of the massive shark brings an immediate and profound change to the ocean around Amity Island. The water that had been disturbed by the predator's presence begins to settle into its normal patterns, with the gentle swells and predictable currents that characterize the area during calm weather. The sea's return to tranquility marks the end of the extraordinary disruption that has affected the island's marine environment. The debris from the shark's destruction gradually disperses across the ocean's surface, carried away by currents and tides that will eventually distribute the remains across miles of open water. This natural process serves as the ocean's way of absorbing and processing the evidence of the dramatic confrontation that has just concluded. The silence that follows the shark's death is profound and meaningful. The ocean, which has been a source of fear and danger for the people of Amity Island, once again becomes a place of peace and beauty. The absence of the massive predator allows the natural sounds of the sea to return. The gentle lapping of waves, the calls of seabirds, and the subtle movements of marine life. The survivors of the encounter with the shark find themselves floating in water that no longer holds the threat of sudden death. The psychological impact of this change is as significant as the physical safety it represents. The ocean has been transformed from a source of terror back into the peaceful environment that originally attracted people to Amity Island. The marine ecosystem around the island begins to recover from the disruption caused by the shark's presence. Fish populations that had been scattered by the predator's hunting activities start to return to their normal patterns. The restoration of ecological balance ensures that the waters around Amity Island will once again support the fishing and recreational activities that form the foundation of the island's economy. The floating debris from the shark's destruction provides the last tangible evidence of the extraordinary encounter. As these pieces gradually sink or drift away, they carry with them the final remnants of a predator that represented one of the ocean's most dangerous creatures. The sea's absorption of these remains marks the complete end of the threat. The two survivors of the encounter with the great white shark find themselves floating in the peaceful waters that surround the remains of the orca. Chief Brody and Matt Hooper, brought together by circumstances neither could have imagined, must now make their way back to Amity Island to report the success of their mission and the tragic loss of their companion. Pieces of the orca's deck and equipment provide makeshift flotation devices, while their knowledge of the island's location and the ocean's currents guides their efforts to reach safety. The partnership between the police chief and the marine biologist, forged in the crucible of their confrontation with the shark, proves essential to their survival. As they make their way toward shore, both men have time to reflect on the extraordinary experience they have shared. The encounter with the shark has changed them both, providing insights into courage, sacrifice, and the unpredictable nature of the natural world. Their survival creates a bond between them that will persist long after they reach the safety of dry land. The distant site of Amity Island serves as a beacon of hope and safety for the two swimmers. The familiar outline of the beaches and buildings represents a return to civilization and the normal life that the shark's presence had disrupted. Their progress toward shore marks the literal and symbolic journey from danger back to safety. The success of their hunt and the elimination of the shark will provide relief and celebration for the residents and visitors who have been living with the fear of the predator's presence. Their arrival will mark the beginning of Amity Island's return to normal life. Hooper's scientific equipment, lost with the orca, takes with it much of the documentation of their encounter with the shark. But the knowledge and experience gained during their confrontation will contribute to the scientific understanding of great white shark behavior. The lessons learned from their encounter will help future researchers and hunters who may face similar challenges. The return of Chief Brody and Matt Hooper to Amity Island brings with it the news that the community has been desperately waiting to hear. The shark responsible for the attacks has been killed, and the immediate threat to public safety has been eliminated. The confirmation of the predator's death allows the island to begin the process of healing and recovery from the traumatic events of recent days. The beaches of Amity Island, closed for safety during the shark crisis, can now be reopened to the public. The familiar sights of families enjoying the sun and surf return as people slowly overcome their fear of the water. Children build sandcastles while their parents watch from beach chairs, and the sound of laughter once again mingles with the gentle rhythm of the waves. The island's economy, severely impacted by the beach closures and the fear of the shark, begins to recover as tourists return and normal business activities resume. Hotels fill with guests who had postponed their visits. Restaurants welcome diners eager to enjoy fresh seafood, and the various businesses that depend on summer tourism start to see their fortunes improve. The local fishing fleet, which had been disrupted by the shark's presence, returns to its normal activities. The fishermen who participated in the hunt for the predator share their experiences and honor the memory of Quint, whose sacrifice made their victory possible. The return to routine fishing activities helps restore the community's connection to the sea that has always been central to island life. Chief Brody's role in defeating the shark establishes him as a true member of the Amity Island community. His courage and determination in facing an unprecedented threat earn him the respect and gratitude of the people he has sworn to protect. The experience transforms him from an outsider trying to fit into a proven leader who has demonstrated his commitment to the island's safety. The memory of the shark and the crisis it created becomes part of Amity Island's history and folklore. The story of the great white shark and the brave men who defeated it will be told and retold, serving as a reminder of the ocean's power and the courage required to face its dangers. The tale becomes part of the island's identity, adding depth and meaning to its character. The peaceful waters around Amity Island once again become a source of joy and recreation, rather than fear and danger. The elimination of the shark restores the natural balance that makes the island such an attractive destination for visitors and such a pleasant home for residents. The sea returns to its role as a source of beauty, sustenance, and peaceful relaxation. The 4th of July celebration, postponed during the shark crisis, finally takes place with special meaning for the island community. The holiday becomes not just a celebration of national independence, but also a celebration of the island's freedom from the fear that had gripped it. The fireworks over the harbor illuminate waters that are once again safe for swimming and boating. The conclusion of the shark crisis marks the end of an extraordinary chapter in Amity Island's history. The community has faced an unprecedented threat and emerged victorious, though not without cost. The experience has tested the courage and determination of the island's people and proven their ability to come together in the face of danger. The peace that returns to Amity Island is more precious for having been threatened, and the beauty of the sea is more appreciated for having been the source of such fear. The gentle waves that lap against the shore carry no trace of the drama that unfolded in the deeper waters. The ocean has returned to its eternal rhythm, indifferent to the human struggles that briefly disturbed its surface. The sun sets over Amity Island as it has for countless years, painting the sky in colors that reflect off water that is once again safe and welcoming. As night falls over the island, the sounds of normal life return. The laughter of families enjoying evening walks onto the beach, the gentle conversations of couples watching the sunset, and the distant music from restaurants and bars where people gather to celebrate their restored freedom. The ocean that once harbored such terrible danger now provides the peaceful soundtrack to a community that has rediscovered its sense of security and joy. The story of Jaws concludes not with the dramatic destruction of the shark, but with the quiet restoration of normal life to a community that has faced the unthinkable and survived. The true victory lies not in the defeat of the predator, but in the return of children to the water, the resumption of fishing activities, and the restoration of the trust and peace that make Amity Island a place where people want to live and visit. The legacy of the great white shark and the crisis it created will endure in the memories of those who lived through it and the stories that will be passed down to future generations. But the immediate reality is the return of peace, safety, and the simple pleasures of life by the sea. The ocean that gave birth to such terror has reclaimed its role as a source of beauty, sustenance, and endless fascination for those who respect its power and appreciate its gifts. The end. If you are still awake, try my other movie story videos. Subscribe if you liked the video. Thanks.